I am Ben. This is Board and Savior, the only channel on YouTube that talks about board games at all. Don't search for any of the other ones. I got rid of all of them. They're gone, so you're stuck with me. What are we doing here today? I am going to tell you my top 20 favorite board games of all time as of right now. So what's that qualifier? That means that, you know, next year I can do this again and it'll change and I'll get the same number of views or more. And that's basically just how I benefit, and you have to watch a very similar video with games in just like slightly changed rankings. This is not a good advertisement for next year's video. It'll be so cool. Oh my God, it'll be awesome. Shoot, I feel like I'm blowing it. I usually have a script for these and I don't. I'm just like improvising off the top of my head, and it's going to be interesting when we get into talking about games. How am I going to talk about games? Whew, that's a segue right there. How am I going to talk about games? First, I am going to discuss sort of how the games feel to play. I'm not going to give you a whole spiel on all the rules and everything. I'm just going to sort of tell you how it generally works so that you can get a sense, if you're unfamiliar with the game, of kind of how it works and how it would feel for you to play that game. And then I'll talk about why I like that game so much. And then I'll talk about the next game on the list. And that will happen until I'm done talking. And it'll be great. So let's start. Number 20, Ankh, Gods of Egypt. How about that for an intro? You expect more of that. We're going all production value all the time here, baby. This is Ankh, as you just heard. This is clearly, as you can see, gymongous, hugantuan, big. Yeah, this is... like, look at it. It's kind of dumb how large and opulent this game is. The best way that I can describe the feeling of this game is it's a puzzle. It's really a like thought problem. The main mechanism of the game, the way that you will take actions on your turn, is this board over here. I'll clear these little things off. Whoa, cleared off too many things. This action board here, there are 4 actions that you can take on your turn, and the kind of the catch is that you can take 2 of them, up to 2 of them, but they have to be in order, top to bottom. So if you take summon figure as your first action, you would not be able to move figures as your second action. But whenever the little marker that you're using to track these actions, whenever it reaches this last space over here, it triggers an event on this little winding track down here. These events are simultaneously things that you absolutely want to be the person who triggers them, because when you are the person who triggers an event, it always gives you an advantage. But you might not want to trigger it exactly when it's about to happen, because the only way that fighting happens in this game is through those events. So if there are forces that you need to position in a certain way, you might want to prevent that combat from happening for as long as possible until your troops are in a good spot. But, of course, other players might already have their troops in a good spot, and so they want to trigger that combat sooner. It's remarkable how much of a puzzle a game that looks like this is. It's like an enigma, right? It's like I don't fully understand when I look at it how it feels to play. And so it's a very interesting kind of juxtaposition, the experience versus just the look of it. There are best moves, and you can feel it while you're playing. You can feel that there are best moves. And the critique is that sometimes when a piece looks like this, or frickin' like this guy, sometimes I just want to, you know? The fact that it is so beautiful and so humongous makes me wish that it were just a little bit dumber. Number 19, Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy. Okay, so we are not scaling down very much from the last board game to this one. Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy, designed by Toko Takakawa. I did my best. It's a tough one, but I think I was okay. I think I was close. This game really feels like science and exploration and upgrading technology. I think that's the main thrust of this game. The main mechanism that I love so much, and really the only thing that I'm gonna go super in depth about, are these technological upgrades and this stuff that you can research. Over here, can I pick it up? We'll see. Whoa, there we go. So one of the actions that you can take on your turn is the research action. So over here are all of these technologies that exist in Eclipse, in space. And as the game goes on, you're going to draw these out of a bag and kind of populate this tray, and different things will come out. There are a bunch of things that have multiple iterations, like these neutron bombs. Multiple players could get neutron bombs throughout the course of the game. At the bottom row here, there are a bunch of completely unique upgrades that you can research, like this antimatter splitter and the conifold field. These are things that if you research this, only you will ever have this for that particular game of Eclipse. And these upgrades change around your ships. They also do a couple other things, but we're really talking about the upgrades to the ships. At the top of your player board, there are your 1, 2, 3, 4 ships, 3 ships, and then one kind of like space station. These ships are completely customizable. One of the actions is research, and that gets you these little tiles that will allow you to upgrade your ships throughout the course of the game. So once you have these tiles, they basically unlock all of these different upgrades. When you take the upgrade action, you can replace any of the parts on your ship with these upgrades. So at the start, I don't know where I got that one from. At the start, let's say your interceptor, so like kind of like an X-Wing kind of ship. You're like little fighters. Your interceptors, they have kind of 3 power, they have 1 movement speed, and they shoot with 1 of the lamest dice. Throughout the course of the game, though, you might upgrade it so that they have a ton of power and that they can move 3 spaces at once and that they shoot with 7 dice, or like just it is up to you how you want to make your ships work. You can load them up on hull and on shields so that even if the other player is hitting you a bunch, they're not doing any damage. You can just ignore it all and it's worthless. Or you can go for full damage. I am just going to focus on blowing you out of the water. Who cares how much hull strength my ship has? And deciding where to kind of balance that, and if you want certain ships that are like your death ships and other ones that are much safer to fly around in. It is, oh my gosh, it's just so freaking fun. So freaking fun. This is maybe just the most incredible thing about this game. Every player gets one of these little player boxes, and it has everything that you need. I wish I hadn't closed it earlier, because now everything that's on top of it is about to pop off. It has everything that you need to be your player. Instead of handing out like little baggies and pulling out all the ships and everything and it being super annoying and tedious. Nope, you just slide across this little tray, boom. Each player is set up as soon as they have this tray. That's it. That's all it needs to do. It tracks how much money and research points and building points you have with this little tracker that goes around the edge, which is super cool. It tracks how much production of those various resources you have with these little cubes around the top. And then it contains all of your ships. It contains all of your little action discs. It contains all of the cubes that you use to show which planets you control. Board games have realized that quality of life is very important to gamers, and they have done many things to improve it as much as possible. I feel like this may be the single best board game for that. Just enjoyable experience of play. Eclipse, so much fun, so good. Highly recommend it. Tremendous. Number 18, Shogun. Okay, so as you can see, slight departure from Ankh and Eclipse. Those games, really pretty. This game, forgive me, Dirk Hen, designer of this game. You made an ugly one that looks really gross, like super, super gross. This green, this brown, this yellow, all of those colors would be right at home in like a cartoon vomit depiction. Sorry, that's nasty, but it's accurate. That said, this is coming in above Eclipse and Ankh. You saw how those games looked, so this game has got to be incredible, and I really think it is. How does it feel to play? It feels in a lot of ways like classic traditional area control. I mean, you have like all the different spots on the map, you've got the cubes, but where it differentiates itself is in two main areas, and these are also the reasons that I like the game, so we're just going right into why I like the game. The two main differentiators are this guy over here, we'll come back to this with a little demonstration, and everyone's player board. So there are 10 actions. Everyone has the same 10 actions. And the super, super interesting thing is that, so these actions are like build a temple, which is good for victory points, build a theater, which is good for victory points, get rice, which you need to feed the people who are in all of your regions at the end of each phase, start a fight from a region to another region. So there are all these different actions that you can take, but there are these 10 slots for them, and every single one of your regions has a card that is associated with that region. So when at the start of each round, every player will take their region cards and put them down on these actions. What that means is that you can only ever do one thing each round in each region. You can only ever attack out of a region that you are not putting more troops into. You can't put more troops in and then attack from a region in the same round. It's just not how the game works. So that means that you have to plan multiple rounds ahead. I'm going to bolster in this round so that I can fight out of that location next round. Everyone at the start of each round takes all of their regions, programs out what's going to happen, and then you kind of watch it happen. So by the time you get to like the gain rice action, you may have actually forgotten which region is going to gain rice. You might be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be mustering up forces because now with the way everything's shaking out, I'm definitely going to want to attack out of that region next time. Oh no, I'm just getting rice there. It is so fun to try and program everything out perfectly, and you just know that it's not going to work. It does kind of simulate controlling a large region because it takes time for things to work in a place. You're like, okay, bolster up your forces over there. I'll come back to you, okay? You just keep bolstering. All right, we're gonna get rice over here. And then the next round you're like, okay, you have a lot of forces. Why do you have a lot of forces? I'm gonna attack someone, I guess. Go attack. I don't know who I was planning to attack, but go. So fun. It is chaotic, but if you can get through that chaos, you can carve out a victory. And the way that you carve out your victories, the way that you do your battles, is with this bad boy. You may have seen things about this cube tower before because it is relatively well known. You take so let's say this purple player is invading this yellow player. You take all of the cubes involved in the conflict, and instead of rolling dice or playing out cards, all you do is this. What comes out the bottom? You will notice I put in 2 yellow cubes and 3 purple cubes. What came out are 3 yellow cubes, 1 green cube, 1 blue cube, and 1 purple cube. That is because this tower is a mystery wrapped in an enigma. It traps cubes inside of it and allows others to go through. So over the course of the game, this acts as a brilliant balancing mechanism. Some battles, and it also makes all battles unpredictable. Some battles are gonna go your way because 6 of your cubes shoot out and you're like, yeah, I won! And then you're gonna go, oh no, I only put in 2 cubes. That means 4 of my cubes that were stored in there, ready for another battle, are now no longer in that tower. Now I put 4 of my opponent's cubes in and they didn't come out. Next time I fight against yellow, they might destroy me because this thing just has this amazing way of making this game unpredictable and brilliantly fun.
Number 17, Cyclades.
And we're back to games with miniatures. I really like those. I like it when there's little plastic guys that are shaped like things. So get used to it. You're going to see a bunch more like this. This one takes place in ancient Greece, and we've got all the classic Greek gods here showing up. You got Zeus, Athena, Apollo, Zeus, and Zeus. What happened? What happened in my brain? Poseidon and Ares are the last two. I don't know what occurred there. And the main thrust of this game is bidding. You are giving up your hard-earned fortune for the favor of the various gods. So the first player might come along and say, I really want the favor of Athena, bid 3. The second player then might say, I also really want the favor of Athena. I'm going to bid 5. Now that first player isn't out of luck. They're not just doomed to not have the favor of a god. They have to choose one of the other gods and bid something there. So they might say, okay, I don't really want Zeus right now, so I am instead going to go down to the free version, the guy that just gives you $1 if you, depending on how many isles you control, how many of these little islands you control. Then it comes down to the last player to decide, do I want the favor of Athena? Do I want to spend 6? Or do I want to take Zeus's favor for a measly 1 gold? Let's do that. So this third player, in this case, gets out very, very lucky. It's a super, super interesting bidding system because the favor of the gods, what that does, that is the thrust of all of the actions that you can take in the game. This is not like a classic dudes on a map game where these guys give you special bonus actions, but you can always like move your troops around or go attack someone. No, these gods tell you what you can do. If you want to move your troops from one place to another, you had better pick the right god. Ares is the one who allows you to move your troops back and forth. Poseidon is the one who allows you to move your boats. Zeus gives you these priests, which discount all of your future bids, and Athena gives you these philosophers, which when you have 4 of them, you can build a metropolis. What the heck's a metropolis? Well, in this game, that's the only thing that really matters at the end of the day. Metropolises are conglomerations. Sure. There are 4 different building types that you can build throughout the course of the game. There are fortresses, which are built when you have Ares' favor. There are ports, which are built when you have Poseidon's favor. There are, I don't know, these are like libraries or something, which are built when you have Athena's favor. And then there are temples, which are built when you have Zeus's favor. When you have all 4 of these temples, they Voltron into a metropolis. The first player to have 2 metropolises under their control wins the game. That's the only possible victory condition. The ways that you can get metropolises is if you ever control 4 of each individual building, they poof turn into a metropolis. If you have 4 of these philosophers, they poof turn into a metropolis. And the third and final way that you can get a metropolis is by taking an already created metropolis from your opponent, and that is the battle system, which is very simple. You just count up the number of troops and boats involved in the battle. Each player rolls a single die, which has numbers 0 to 2, and then you add up the numbers, and that's how you figure out who won the battle. It's really simple. It's really easy. It's not something that the other player at the table has to be like bored during that battle. Super simple and quick. I've basically explained every single part of the game. Remember how I said I was just going to tell you how it felt? It feels like a knife fight in a phone booth. That's what it feels like. Because you're all vying for the same things at any given time, you only have access to the actions that your god gives you in that round. It is super tight the entire time. No one really has a chance to get like incredibly lucky. It is very much about timing. It's all about timing and when you do certain things. You have to have the right amount of money and be in the right particular order in order to get the god that you want for as little money as possible. I love that feeling, and it is very addictive to keep going at it until like in the first or second round you might screw up and you might see like, okay, I know now what not to do, so that by the later rounds, you can develop kind of a cleverer strategy and know the right place to be in turn order to get exactly what you want. I think this one is a lot of fun. And for a game, which is, you know, like a dudes on a map fighting game, it's very simple, very streamlined, and quite straightforward. Thumbs up. Did you hear that? Number 16, air, land, and sea. It was nothing, I guess. Air, Land, and Sea, the smallest game that we have on our list. This is designed by John Perry, and yeah, it's teeny tiny. As you can see, the box is this big, and the board is this, and it's just cards and a couple little cardboard tokens. And it is a delight, an absolute delight. All you need are 6 cards each. There are 18 cards total. You shuffle them up, 6 to me, 6 to you, and then 6 cards not used. That's the whole thing. And then you just go back and forth playing cards into one of the 3 theaters of war, and then you tally up the total strength in each of those theaters, and the best 2 out of 3 wins. And you get associated points because you get points based on when the tally up happens. Basically, at any point on your turn, you can say, this one's not it for me. I'm going to resign. If you do that early on, your opponent is going to be left with far fewer points. But if you wait until the end, if you really think that you can pull this thing off, and then you lose, you give your opponent 6 points. The first to 12 points total wins the overall game. And it's really simple, but it's not. Like, it's not, it is simple, but it's not boring. You know what I mean? This is not as simple as this card says 2, this card says 5, so the 5 is better. The 5 does something. This particular 5 on C says, if any player plays a card to an adjacent theater occupied by at least 3 other cards, destroy that card. So that means that if someone wants to play a card into the land, now that there are 3 cards here, it is instantly destroyed. You play that card after you're already winning that adjacent theater, anything that your opponent plays there blows right up. That's an interesting little wrinkle. But there are also other cards that maybe move cards from theater to theater to get around blockades, or cards that flip cards over. This 6 is on, this is a 6 on this side, but it's a 2 on the other side. On the back of every card is a 2. So if someone flips over this card, my giant 6 strength tanks become a 2, and they are worth a whole lot less. It is super duper interesting. It's impossible to predict the cards that your opponent has because there are 6 left face down each round, and yet you still try to predict what cards your opponent has. It doesn't really make a lot of sense because, statistically there's a 50-50 shot if they have that card in their hand, whatever card you're thinking of. But you still do it. The game makes you do it. Because there are so few cards, it takes you like 3 or 4 rounds to see every single card that the game has to offer. So you know the things that you're watching out for. This particular card, you gain +3 strength in each adjacent theater. If you can play that in the middle, boom, this 1 strength card gives you 3 in one and 3 in the other. That is so good. So you are watching out for your opponent playing that, maybe as their last card, and with just 1 card getting strength in 2 separate theaters. Actually 3, you get 1 strength in the middle. I love this game. It blows my mind how fun it is for how small it is. Every single time that I play it, I am impressed and inspired. Like, genuinely, this game is the game that makes me want to try and design a game. And full disclosure, I have designed a few games that I have only ever played with my friends because they're not very good, because they are never this straightforward and streamlined and elegant. They are never like this. Like, they're huge and they're ridiculous and it's too much. But this is the kind of thing that really inspires me as a gamer and as a hopeful designer. Building something like this that works so well with so little is absolutely a dream, and it plays like a dream. Number 15, Gloomhaven. Talk about a juxtaposition. Air, Land, and Sea box, about yay big. Gloomhaven box, as you can see, quite thick, quite large, very different. Maybe, so not quite the biggest game that I own, but really close to the biggest game that I own, like the physically heaviest game that I own. It's up there. And if I've got a critique, if I've got a complaint, I think it's what a lot of people will say about Gloomhaven. It doesn't make the best use of the box. The insert that comes in the box doesn't really let you organize things in a great way, and it actually is a little bit counterproductive to setting up each game. I bought like a secondhand organizer, and it makes things a lot easier, but it doesn't make it that easy because there's just a lot of stuff in this box. There's a lot of stuff, and you're not quite sure which things you're going to need. There's a lot of sifting through these shaped tokens to find the right one for the scenario. I was trying to set up the one of the first scenarios of this game just to put it out on the table, and I gave up trying to find all the right pieces, and I just stuck things together because I was like, it doesn't really matter if this is exactly the right first scenario. It takes a while to set up. That is probably the single thing that makes it the hardest to get this to the table, is just that I don't always feel like spending 45 minutes putting it together at the start of a play. That said, I have played it a lot, so the game itself is good enough that I can overlook the frustrating setup situation. Would I have played it more if it were easier to set up? Yeah, I think I would have, but I've played it a bunch. So, how does this game feel? I called Ankh a puzzle. This game, even more so. There is a chess-like element to this, and not in so far as like your players have, or your pieces have only certain moves that they can do, like diagonal or straight. No. It feels like chess because in a game of chess, there's always a best move, right? And it feels a lot of the time in Gloomhaven like there are best moves. There is something that you can figure out that is your best path forward through the scenario. There are a bajillion scenarios that come in the base game, over 100, I believe. And each of these scenarios is intricately crafted to be a puzzle. It is something that you have to sit and think about and look at and come up with a plan on how you're going to get through it. You are probably going to have to sacrifice a few of the things that you want to do in order to make it to the end alive. Or you can try to do everything and you will quite possibly die. You might have to say, I see that treasure chest over there, but the time's running out. I gotta go into this other room and take out the baddie. It is so interesting to have that kind of, cost-benefit situation, and to do all of this puzzling with a couple of friends. Part of the fun is that every single turn you pick 2 of your cards, and you are going to do the top action of one and the bottom action of the other. But you don't need to declare which one you're doing the top action of and which one you're doing the bottom action of. So because of this, you can set up yourself to say, okay, I'm going to do this big area of effect attack, and it's going to be great because it's going to take out 4 guys. And you go last, and 3 of the guys get taken out. And you go, okay, well, maybe I'll save the big area of effect attack for a room where I go first and take out a group of people. And then I'll use the other one that is ranged and only targets 1 person. You can change up your plans on the fly. It's a very interesting situation where you make kind of a best case plan and a contingency plan if your fellow players' turns go exceptionally well. And that's obviously good. If your fellow players take out a bunch of the bad guys and you're only left with 1, that's not a problem, but it's really interesting to have to make that kind of little contingency along with it. So despite the massive setup time of this game, the puzzle, the systems absolutely give this game thumbs way up and earn it number 15 on my list. Number 14, Roll for the Galaxy. If you follow a lot of board game stuff, you've probably heard of this game, or at the very least, you've heard of Race for the Galaxy, designed by Tom Lehman. This one is designed by Wei Hua Huang and Tom Lehman together. BFFs. I don't know if they're friends. I would think they collaborated on this game. Race for the Galaxy is a game that you are not going to see in my top 20, and you wouldn't see it in my top 30, or my top 40, or my top 50, or my top 60. Maybe in my top 60. I don't know. Roll for the Galaxy absolutely blows Race for the Galaxy out of the water. Did I say Race? I can't remember. It's long gone in my brain. This is so much better. Oh my gosh. I don't even know exactly. So let me give you my backstory. Let me give you my history. Race for the Galaxy is a game that the first time I played it, I was like, oh my God, this is mind-blowing. The idea of both players secretly selecting the actions that they were going to do for that round and trying to guess the action that the opponent would pick, because you also get to do that action. It's just whoever picks it does like a better version of that action. So you're like, I want to like settle a planet, and I think they're going to do that, so I'm going to choose to develop and do that kind of thing. Regardless, that blew my mind, but I played it so much that I realized that there was always kind of the same structure to the gameplay. You were always going to spend the beginning kind of building everything up, and then you were just going to produce and then consume, and then produce and then consume, and then produce and then consume, because that was the best way to get you to the win. And that's true for me. I assume that expansions maybe change that up, but I haven't played with all of those, and maybe there's even better strategies that people are sitting here and they're like, you're an idiot, you played it wrong and you're bad at the game. I don't know, maybe I am. But I found that it got to be very samey after a while. Roll for the Galaxy does not have that problem for me because of the randomness of the dice, which, first of all, let's just take a moment. Like, come on. So many dice. And they're so nice and little clicky clacky and beautiful, and oh yeah, I like that part. Clearly that's a positive. How does it feel? Let's do that. How does this game feel to play? This game feels like a delicious blend of strategy and luck. Because you're rolling dice, obviously there is a luck factor to that, but this is, in a strange way, kind of a game where you're rolling dice where it's so exciting to have unexpected things come up on the dice. Obviously, there are moments where you really want certain things to come up on the dice, and if they don't, you're like, no! But a lot of the time, when something comes up on the die that you weren't expecting, you can go, okay, how can I use that? How can I figure out a way to make that work for me? And so that feeling, that randomness, but like reveling in the randomness, is something that I dig so much. And I think that's probably the reason that I love this game so much, is it forces you to come up with new strategies on the fly. You may have something that you want to do on your turn, but the dice come up certain faces and you go, well, I'm not doing that. Let's figure something else out and see what we can salvage from this turn. And oftentimes you can do really great things with turns that you weren't expecting to go a certain way. There are so many different tiles. I feel like games are rarely going to feel like the same game played multiple times in a row. It still has the incredible action selection thing where depending on what actions both players choose, those are the actions that will come up, and that is still tremendous. Roll for the Galaxy knocks Race out of the park. Okay. That was definitely something. You heard that, right? Number 13, Decrypto. It was a glass measuring thing. I cleaned it up. It's fine. Decrypto. This is the highest party game that's on my list. This plays 3 to 8 players. This is designed by Thomas oh boy, here we go. It's probably like Thomas Dagenet L'Espérance. How about that? Decrypto is my favorite game to break out at a family gathering or with a large group of friends. This plays 3 to 8 players. Did I already say that? I don't know. I'm going bonkers. Stuff is falling off the shelves right now. I think this is... What's because they're a ghost? I think this is the best game to play when you got a bunch of people together. Here's how it works. You have stop. This just wants to fall over. You have a your team has 4 words. In this case, I don't know if you can see them. They are maple, black, toilet and dictionary, and they are in the 1, 2, 3, and 4 spot. One person on the team is going to take one of these code cards. This has 3 of the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, in a random order. This one is 2, 1, 4. So I need to get my team to guess in order: black, then maple, then dictionary. The trick here, the little caveat, is that the opposing team gets to guess what your code is before your team does. So on the first round, on the second round, maybe even on the third round, they're not going to have too much to go on. Definitely on the first round. I mean, the first thing that you say, you could say syrup, or in order, you could say dark syrup and then book. And they wouldn't be able to guess the code because that's the first one. They're just guessing random numbers. But as the clues go on and they can see that every single time you gave a clue for 4, it had to do with words, with knowledge, with alphabetical order, they're going to start to get a picture of what this word is. So when you give your 6th clue for 4 and your 6th clue for 4 is, I don't know, lots of pages, they're going to be like, I think that's probably related to 4. So what you want to do is give super obscure clues that are very hard to link to these words. Problem there is that you have to get your team to guess those clues. So if you go too obscure, it's gonna go too far. So for maple, maybe you're like, okay, maple syrup, pancakes, breakfast, English breakfast. You say English breakfast, and you hope that your team can get back from English breakfast just to regular breakfast, to pancakes, to syrup, to maple syrup. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. You have to determine how far you obfuscate your clues. And what I love particularly about this game is that it really does work with any group of people, but it works super, super differently. When I play this game with my family, for example, we have like inside jokes that we can reference with these words. And that obviously wouldn't work in a friend group where maybe it's a bunch of newer friends who are coming over. You don't have that kind of established language that you grow over the course of time with really good friends or with family. So the way that you play the game changes depending on who you're playing the game with. And it's still really fun. Like maybe you do more of that obfuscation, those like further steps with a newer group. But with your family, maybe you know maple, mom always makes pancakes on Sundays, and so I'll say Sunday morning or something like that. It's not a great example, but hey, what are you gonna do? I'm improvising here. You gotta give me some slack. So very different depending on who you play the game with, and I think that adds to the fun. This encourages so much creativity. I think that's my number one favorite thing about this game. And then there's also like a separate mini game where you're trying to deduce from this like really weird list of clues what your opponent's words are. And what I always like to do, this is not an official part of the game, but at the end of the game is to, at the very end, after one side has won or lost, say, okay, we have a sense of what your words are. Let's see if we can exactly guess them. And usually you can kind of get like 1 or 2 of the words. And that's just like a fun little extra thing. Like to look at all the clues and be like, okay, everything is relating to a field. Maybe it's meadow. And then maybe you get it and you're like, whoa, we did it. So Decrypto, so much fun for any party. Number 12, Kemet. You will notice that I did not just say Kemet, Blood and Sand, although that is what you are seeing here. I have not played Kemet, Blood and Sand. I have only played Kemet. I got Kemet, Blood and Sand along with Yucatan, which you can go back and watch my Yucatan review. But I got Kemet, Blood and Sand through that Kickstarter because I like Kemet so much, and I haven't actually gotten the chance to play Kemet, Blood and Sand just yet. It was, I don't know, a couple months ago that I got Blood and Sand. So I am basing this ranking solely on the first version of this game, which was, yes, just called Kemet. Regardless, virtually the only things that changed were aesthetic changes. There were a couple like rulebook tweaks and little things here and there, but pretty much this is the same game. Kemet, whoa, Boom, 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 boom. You looked at Ankh and you said, I bet you this is a big old fighting game. And I told you, nope, it's more like a puzzle. You look at this one and you say, well, I bet you this one's a fighting game, but maybe I need to be wary because the last one was a puzzle. No, you shouldn't be wary this time. This is a big old fighting game. That's how it feels to play. It feels like you are just like throwing forces at each other, and someone's gonna win and someone's gonna lose, and whoever wins is gonna be happy and whoever loses is gonna be sad. It's fighting. It's bloody. It's great. One of the coolest things about this game is that you are right next to everyone always. If you'll remember my Eclipse review, I said that I was a little disappointed that it takes a while to actually start punching other players with your ships that you've been building this whole time. This game, no. It is actually designed so that pretty much every space is almost directly adjacent. These little obelisks you can use to like teleport from place to place. Everything is super close, and that means that you start punching each other immediately. The whole point of this game is to fight each other. Yes, there is area control and you get points for controlling certain spots and things like that, but it is about fighting. And it's about developing yourself via technology. But the technology is relating to fighting and getting money so that you can fight better and protecting yourself when other people fight you. And there's also other technology that's like allows you to raise the dead or something. I don't know. I've only played with the red, white, and blue power tiles thus far, and Kemet Blood and Sand has green and black ones that do all kinds of other crazy things. That's like the two kind of main mechanisms, like area control fighting combined with this kind of tech tree over here. And these are things that give you like movement bonuses. Instead of moving one space at a time, you can move two spaces at a time. You can go directly into the red city immediately if you want to. They also might give you bonuses in battle. Because, interesting note, something that I really love about this game, the battle is all card-based, and you're going to play these cards, and they have certain symbology on them. But what is key to understand is that the strength that is required to win the battle is not the same thing as there's a little blood icon that shows how many opposing forces you kill. You could decide, I don't really care about winning this battle as long as I wipe out my opponent's forces. I dig it. It's super, super fun. It is exactly how it looks, and I think that's why I like it so much. It promises a big ol' Egyptian battle where you can control giant creatures, and that's exactly what it delivers. Kemet Blood and Sand, technically just Kemet. I can only endorse fully Kemet, but I feel like I could probably endorse Kemet Blood and Sand. Aces, love this game. Egypt, me like it. I really lost it at the end there. I'm so sorry. Number 11, Chronicles of Crime. You ever want to solve a murder? This won't actually do that because it's not real, so you're not helping anyone in real life. But David Cicurel designed Chronicles of Crime. I also realized I did not say that Guillaume Montiage designed Kemet. He did. Thank you, Guillaume. David Cicurel designed Chronicles of Crime, and this is a little mystery-solving game, and it is app-based, as you'll see in the B-roll, quite a lot of QR codes. This is, you gotta have a phone, you gotta have an iPad, you gotta have something that can scan things, and it is completely app-based, and it is completely scenario-based, which makes a lot of sense, because every murder is gonna be different. The base game comes with a few scenarios. I can't remember how many, 3 to 5 somewhere. It says 7. I have no idea. But you can buy a bunch of other scenarios, and you can download scenarios that fans have made. There are ones for free, ones for money. And there are periodically sales on them, and each scenario is like, I don't know, a couple bucks. But I usually wait until there's a sale and I pick up a whole bunch of them. And there's expansions. Like, you can go and do this same Chronicles of Crime, but it's like in a noir theme, or even like a futuristic theme. How does this game feel? It really feels like you are a detective. You go to a crime scene. There is a little augmented reality thing where you like hold up your phone, you hold up your tablet, and you look around a crime scene and you call out the things that you're seeing to the other people that you're playing with. So you might say like, okay, I see bloodstains, and then someone is going to search through all the clues and find like bodily fluid. I don't know if that's one of the clues. It sounds gross, but there's stuff like that. Yeah, something like bodily fluid is in there. Let's stop saying bodily fluid, why don't we? But you'll call out like a chair's tipped over, and then they'll find furniture. There's a gun on the ground. Okay, firearms. And you call out everything that you think you see that is important, and you should even be calling out things that you see that you're not sure if they're important. And then you have kind of like a limited amount of time to look at that, and then you can pass it off to someone else, and they can look at the scene as well. And then you scan all of those clues, and the game like directs you a little bit in telling you like, okay, that is like actually an important clue. That one is maybe something that you don't really need to bother with. But you're asking, why wouldn't you just like scan every clue just to be sure? This game is time-based. Every single thing that you scan takes a little bit of time off the clock, and the murderer doesn't want to be found, and the longer that you wait, the more likely it is that they might slip away. That's not really the case. The game will never take away the option for you to actually solve the case, but it does discourage you. It gives you like less points, and you should just kind of buy into the fact that you want to do things quickly. That just makes it more fun. That helps the time crunch feeling. So you'll scan all these clues, and then you'll go to different locations, and you'll talk to people, and you can ask them questions about specific clues. You can be like, hey, someone saw you with a firearm. So you can ask them about firearms, and they might be like, oh, shoot, you're right. I totally bought a firearm from this guy. And then you go and talk to that guy, and he's like, oh, I definitely sold the firearm, and she said that she wanted to kill a guy. And you're like, whoa, we cracked the case wide open. It's just a blast. It's so enjoyable to solve a murder, and each case is different, and there's all kinds of varying degrees of like realism. Like, some of the cases are pretty gritty and like down to earth, and you're talking to people who have real motives for killing, and other ones are a little bit sillier. Like, there's an Alice in Wonderland one where things are a little bit more whimsical and weird. Like, there's a big Alice in Wonderland fan who has like a weird apartment that's decked out in all kinds of Lewis Carroll things. Just strange things like that. So there's kind of a variance. It all does have to do with murder. I don't know if there's any that don't have murder. So if, you have kids and you don't want them to think about murder, this probably isn't the right game. But if you do have kids who you want to think about murder, this will work great. Why do I like it? It gives you detective feelings. It makes you feel like Sherlock Holmes, and that is a good time. I mean, look at this, the way that everything is laid out. It kind of gives off the vibe of an investigator looking at the corkboard, putting things up, connecting things with the red yarn and saying, okay, these two people are connected. This person's connected to this location. This location was where the gun was found. It feels like you're drawing all those connections and making all those little assumptions, and you've got a hunch. This person is a little bit untrustworthy. I totally dig it. A lot of fun. That is the number 11 game on my list. So that's where we're going to leave things off this week. Just check back in 2 weeks, I believe. Yeah, 2 weeks for the number 10 through number 1. The Big Apple. What? Come on, man. Just say a normal sentence for once. The big one, it's the top 10. So check back for that. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for this video. Okay. I guess I don't need power. Okay. Lost power in the apartment. Gonna check the fuse box, I guess. Yeah, just make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Just what?